In this video, we're just going to walk through creating a graph in FRED. FRED is the Federal Reserve Economic Database from the St. Louis Federal Reserve Bank, and downloading that data into Excel. So this is the FRED website. So the URL is just FRED, F-R-E-D, St. Louis Fed, so STLOUISFED.org. And then you can search for any data you want, in this main search box. I've given you the four interest rates that I want you to use for this paper. So I will go through those, and then remember that I also want you to get real gross private investment as a separate graph, so we can look at that as well. So the first interest rate is the effective federal funds rate. So this is the rate at which banks lend reserves to each other, usually on a very short-term basis, in order to meet their reserve requirements. So you can just put in that into FRED, and it will pop up, right? So I gave you the sort of codes for each of these. So there's the effective federal funds rate. And then you can see, so this goes back to 2016. I think I asked you to go from 2004 to the end of 2020. So you can just change those dates right up here. So you can just do 2004, 01, 01. So that will be January 1st, 2004. And then you can do 2020, 12, 31 for the end of 2020. And you can see, the Federal Reserve was raising the federal funds rate. It was actually over 5% by the time the financial crisis hit. I think, frankly, they were starting to get worried about housing prices. Then they dropped it when the recession started, and then they dropped it all the way basically to zero once the financial crisis hit, right? So this is when Lehman Brothers failed. And you can see there was actually a spike up originally, and then it fell down when the Federal Reserve basically stepped in and said, okay, we're going to lend as much money as possible. Then it stayed zero for a long time. They started raising it, and then, of course, the pandemic hit, and they dropped it back down to zero again. Okay, now what we can do is we can add the other interest rates on top of this graph by going to Edit Graph and going to Add Line. And then you can just copy. The next one we want is the 10-year Treasury bond. So we can put that in. We can add data series. And so now it changed our dates. We're going to have to change them back. We'll do that in a minute. But you can see now we have the 10-year Treasury bond in red and the effective federal funds rate in blue. So let's add our other lines. So the next one is Moody's 10-year season AAA bond yield. So these are the sort of highest rated corporate bonds. Add the data series there. So that's going to be now in green. And then finally add the Bank of America's BBB bond yield. So that one has this really long abbreviation. I'm just copying and pasting here. Add data series. All right, and that is going to be in purple. All right, and now we just want to change our dates back again. That's always a little frustrating when FRED does that. That's okay. And then, so that's January 1st, 2004 to December 31st, 2020. Okay, so this is the graph you want. Now you can close this up and you can do a couple things. So you can download this data either in a picture, or you can download the actual data and put it into Excel and create your own graph. So this is definitely sort of the graph I want as one of your graphs for the paper. And then I also want a graph of that real investment. That only needs one line, and that probably wants to be on a separate graph because the units are different. So all you need to do, you can download, and you can either download it in Excel or CSV if you want the actual data, or you can download it as a graph. You can just download the image file, or you can download it in a PowerPoint slide. Either one is fine. You'll be able then to copy and put it into your paper relatively easily. I'll just download it as Excel data and just show you that for a minute. So you can save that. So let's see, teaching, we'll put it into this semester, save. And then that will open up and you will have the data in 4 columns, right? Because we have 4 variables, and you'll have the daily data for every day's interest rate. Okay, now, so we have a little bit of a problem here. I'm going to show you our problem. So our problem is that the triple B rating doesn't have the exact same data dates as the other ones. And I'm not 100% sure why that is, because it looks pretty similar. But when they're not exactly the same, they give it to you another thing. So like this might happen if you have daily data for some and you have, oh, I see. So this just actually just has more days. Maybe it has weekend days too or something, and the other ones don't have weekend days or something like that. So, but then you can use this if you want to create your own graph, but you don't have to, right? You can stick with the graph from Fred. So if you download, say, the picture, the image, you can just save that as a PNG file. You can copy and paste that into your Word document or Google Docs. The other option is to save it as a PowerPoint, which will just have the image, within a slide, and you can copy and paste. It's really no different. Copying and pasting, I suppose, might be a little easier from PowerPoint, but you can always just go to the insert picture and save that picture. So that's all for now. Let me know if you have any questions on getting the data. And don't forget that you need to do the real investment graph as well, but that only needs to have one variable on it. So that's all for now, and I will see you later.